All right, let's get to it. All right, this is Bear Thoughts Manga, and I might review the day of Deadpool Samurai. Yeah, since the whole Deadpool is a big of a fan thing right now, well, Deadpool just came out maybe a couple months ago or weeks ago. I can't remember at this point. It's a big thing right now. So right around before they just released the Deadpool movie 3 or the Deadpool and Wolverine, they started to come out with 2 mangas of Deadpool written by the, sorry if I'm butchering anybody's names here, because again, I don't speak Japanese fluently. Shinshiro Kami, the story, and for the artist is Hikaru Izugi. Again, sorry if I'm saying the names wrong. So apparently these two have been doing a bit of a Marvel Deadpool kind of thing going on for a while. So apparently there's several other one of these if you're interested. But this is a 2-part version of it. So you got 1 and 2 is released. The story is about Deadpool going to Japan and meeting up with another OC character, original character to it called Sukuri Spider or Sukure Spider, kind of like Japan's version of Spider Girl, if you want to be wondering. And on the way, they have a bunch of cameos of Captain America, the Avengers, Loki, and sometimes Venom comes all into it. Apparently, if there's a Spider-Man, there's always going to be a Venom. And while they're going over there, Deadpool is trying to make a new group called Japanese Samurai. The editor Grump here, correct that, not Japanese Samurais, it's Samurai Squad. So yeah, let's fix that real quick. And apparently Iron Man wanted him to make the group. So there might be some corrections in the video that I'm gonna just put in words right down here so I don't have to make a bunch of these. So keep watching. Hope you enjoy. You know, hence the name Samurai in the front of it. Of course, he's all in fashion of Deadpool. He knows he's in the Shonen Jump and he's excited to be able to finally be a part of their little, you know, fancy lines of mangas and animes out there, in this case, manga. And it goes through the classic of Deadpool. You know, he makes his joke, fourth wall breaking, he kills some people, he gets killed himself a couple of times, and of course he regenerates because he's Deadpool. Of course he calls out to the Avengers, and the Avengers are like, oh, no, not happening, but Captain America is here to help him out. And later on, All Might shows up because it's a shonen manga. Of course he's gonna show up. Of course Loki's trying to recruit Deadpool to be part of his little villain group, because, you know, Deadpool is kind of a anti-hero. He's not really a good guy, he's not really a bad guy, but Loki thought, hey, you seem like pretty bad to me, join our group. And of course Deadpool, in Deadpool fashion, says no. He's trying to defeat him. Then at some point, then Venom shows up, and part of I guess, as far as I can understand it, a girl idol. I am not quite sure what's going on with that, but apparently Venom got attached to one of her, but then gets attached with some other people later on. Venom is also an anti-hero. Not sure he's really good, not really sure he's really bad, but right now, he's bad in this one. So let's just go jump into the character. Now, everybody knows who Deadpool is. There is no character growth in this. It is Deadpool through and through. It's the Avengers. If you know about Deadpool already, you already know about his own character. There is no beginning to this and growth of a character. This is just jumping right into what we already know as Deadpool. So if you're a Deadpool fan, there is no character growth. You already know who Deadpool is. We don't need to worry about that. But if you're a first person just now getting into Deadpool, you have no clue what this guy's about. Not a single clue. You get some rough ideas, but otherwise you're lost in the sauce. So for me, I'll give this one a 2. There is no growth in this character. There's not even growth in a new OC character. You pretty much get essential. She's pretty much a hero too that wants to join and help Deadpool, but she's pretty much Japan's version of Spider-Man, just female. Also, Spider-Man joins in later on. Forget about that. Yeah, Captain America shows up. You already know about Captain America if you already know about the Avengers. So there is no growth of it. So I give it a 2. It doesn't really hurt it, and you would definitely have to be a fan in order to read this. So if you're not a fan of Deadpool, you might want to look it up first, see who Deadpool is, then you jump into this or watch the movies if you want a real good idea of the growth. Now, I would say this is going to be a part of the art. Now, the art is nice. Art is a very pleasant version of it. It has that manga feel to it. It looks like a manga. It plays out like a manga, but I can't help but feel like, since I'm American, it just has how it comes from me. I can't help but feel like it still feels like it's like a comic at times. It really does. The art style kind of pulls off to that, but then pulls back into the anime style. I like the anime style of all the new characters. Deadpool just looks like Deadpool. It's really hard how can you change Deadpool into an anime character when it's just mask, right? You really can't change his any other features on him because he's pretty much the suit. For Captain America when he showed up, the Spider Girl when he showed up, the of course Iron Man, who's also just suit. You can't really change Iron Man so that she looks like Iron Man. When All Might showed up, he fit right in. So the art style is nice. It does get a little bloody because it's Deadpool. I just it feels like the middle of the road. It just feels like a manga, but it doesn't really go into the deep grittiness of it. But it's still a pleasant read. I give the art style an 8. It's just above the board for me, really. I always say 7's right in the middle of the board, but then you get below 7, you're probably doing pretty bad. All right, so next we're gonna go for story. Now, story for me, it's not that interesting. It's not that involved. And for Deadpool, really, the story really boils down to the comedy of it, right? It's not just about the action. It's not about just the villain showing up and all that stuff and the questions, right? There is a story here. And there's a two-part, it has a beginning and an end, right? And there is an essential guideline or essential endpoint to this story, beating Loki and his villain group and putting a stop to it, and Deadpool becoming a part of the Avengers, or him starting his own group, the Samurai Squad, Death Squad, whatever you want to call it. There's that, but it's not that engaging. But the fourth wall breaking was not that funny. The comedy to me was not that funny. I barely even got a chuckle out of this while I was watching the Deadpool movies, and I was bawling out laughing. It's nothing against the writer of this thing. I just don't feel like they have a real grasp on the humor that maybe Americans are used to. Maybe the humor is more toward Japanese people or even Filipino, whoever, right? Maybe it has more humor to you, and which is great. Love it. Glad you got a laugh out of that real hard chuckle. But me, I had a hard time finding a lot of funny things in this thing that I'm used to in the Deadpool movies or even the classic video games or even the classic comic books that had me busting out laughing. So story, I had to give it a 6. I didn't really love the story, but I still bought both of them and read them. Now, last one, transformative. This one I have to get the highest score on. It is finally taken Marvel, right? Marvel that I kind of grew up on Marvel and DC. I had comic books when I was a kid, and it's already comic books are really struggling right now. And I've always said I like the storytelling a little bit better of manga than I do in comic books modern day. Personally, it's a personal thing. And I'm glad that they decided finally to break it and go, hey, let's break the wall. Let's go to try to do some anime or manga versions of our beloved characters. And let's try to actually break into there. And I appreciate that so much that they're trying to break the boundaries and reach new audiences and reach new people and a very, with a very iconic character. And I'm glad they do that. But they still have that grasp of comic book roots and has still that feel of a comic book rather than fully feeling like a manga just yet. I feel like who the writer was, even though they most likely are Japanese and their names definitely suggested, I don't really know if they're new at writing or they don't have that many. Like I looked at the mangas, I couldn't at glance figure out what their really more known mangas were prior to this, but I feel like they just took some name or maybe an unknown names or not very well established names and went, hey, write us some manga and draw it for us and let's put it out there because it'll sell because it's Deadpool. So for that, I would say for transformative, I give it an 8.5. I'm glad that they did it, but they could have knocked this one out the park if they had better writing. Keep the humor of Americans, right? Or humor for American, because it's all about not about the slapstick. It's sometimes about the witty humor or timing of humor. But at the same time, keep the story writing of a manga, of an anime. That kind of rhythm and pacing that I really liked, and not some of the other values that some other artists in America like to put into their stuff. If you know what I'm talking about, you should know. I'm not going to go into details here. So overall scaling, we got a 2. Shoot, I gotta watch it. I'll rewatch it, make sure my scoring is right, but I give it a 6.5, if not a 7. It's the middle of the road pass. I would say even if you're a Deadpool fan out there, you might get it just because it's Deadpool. But otherwise, if you're out there, this is your first time getting into Deadpool, or even let's say your first time even getting into manga, this is a pass for me. I will not suggest you getting this. Again, if you're a Deadpool fan, sure, collect them all. But if this is your first entry to mangas and your first time into Deadpool, I would say pass on this one. Sorry. I don't really regret buying them. I'm glad there's only two of them, right? Glad there's only two of this story for Deadpool. And the other ones I probably won't pick up if they're written by the same person and drawn by the same person. I'm not gonna pick up the rest of these. This not. This is a kind of a letdown in a lot of ways for what I know about Deadpool. And it mostly boils down to the art's feel of it and the story. That's the clear truth of it. And of course, being that this was the first entry for someone to Deadpool, you have no idea who the heck this guy is, other than dude with a mouth and he cannot die. That's all you pretty much know. So, sorry, passing this one. But as always, have a good day, have a good night, have a good life. Much love, y'all. Bye.